clearly visible and audible to everyone? Hi everyone. Hi Sakshi, Arshia, Saloni. Hi everyone. If I'm clearly audible and visible, please affirm in the chat. Then we will begin with today's class. Yes, Arshia, please ask your doubts. Thank you, Sakshi, for confirming. So, hi everyone, we are done with the history of psychology, right? We began with pre-scientific era. We read about, everything, all the basic philosophers that we need to know for our CUET PG exam. We read about middle age, the basic, philosophies that came up during that particular phase, right? Then when we move ahead, when we move towards later stages of Renaissance period, we read about Francis Bacon, we read about Rene Descartes. Then we also read about a lot of British empiricists. We read about 4 British empiricists, right? There was Thomas Hobbes. Thomas Hobbes was the founder of British empiricism. He was also a monist, a materialist monist. Then we also read about John Locke. John Locke was the person who gave the term tabula rasa, and he believes that we can attain all the ideas, we can attain all the knowledge with the help of sensation and perception. Sensation and reflection. Now Arshia is asking about George Berkeley. Arshia, when you talk about George Berkeley, first of all understand that George Berkeley took the ideas from this British empiricist region only. Okay, he was obviously a monist, idealist monist, okay, and he believed in empiricism. Okay. Now when you talk about George Berkeley said that we can use our senses to gain all type of experiences, and he was also very much influenced, and he said that we should take into account the inductive method as well. We cannot just totally leave that. And he also somewhat believes in the innate tendencies of ideas. Okay, that is more about it, but his main key beliefs are that only ideas exist, and he was an empiricist, and he said that we can gain all the type of experiences from our senses, and we should not go beyond that. We do not know whether there are other kind of reflections. For example, when we talk about John Locke said that there are sensation and there are reflection. So George Berkeley actually rejected that idea. Okay, George Berkeley said that we do not know that reflections are true or reflections are not true. So we should focus upon the things which we can actually experience, because we cannot be sure of that. Okay, so these were the main ideas. We also read about David Hume, right, who was a supreme skeptic under British empiricist. Okay, Arshia, these were the basic ideas. But main you should know that he was an empiricist and he was an idealist monist. That's about it. Okay, I hope I was able to clear your doubt. No, Arshia. No. These kind of questions do not come. They would not ask you to, identify any philosopher via pictures. ऐसा कुछ नहीं आएगा. Simple, you will be asked philosophical based questions. That's about it. Okay, for example, they might ask कि philosophers like George Berkeley and John Locke ascribe to which type of philosophy. Then you would need to choose. But photo, pictures, ऐसा कुछ नहीं आएगा. today what type of brain mind philosophy we follow. Like we follow interactions. We do not follow anything, Arshia. Just understand one thing. Let me add another slide. These are various philosophies. Okay? There are people who are monists, there are people who are dualists. We do not say currently we believe in this and we believed in that. No, they are philosophies true to their own nature. Okay? We cannot say that I will only believe in rationalism and I will not believe in empiricism or vice versa. No, that's not the case. We should give like it depends upon the philosopher, it depends upon the person who is giving the theory. That's about it. We do not ascribe specifically to anything like that. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है कि आज हम ये follow करते हैं etc. ठीक है? Clear? I hope everybody is clear with what we have discussed right now and all the doubts which Arshia asked. If anybody else have any doubt, ठीक है? Arshia, Hermann von Helmholtz, ठीक है? He basically has contributed a lot to the visual perception. ठीक है? So he gave this theory named trichromatic theory of perception along with Young. We will read this theory in detail when we read about perception. ठीक है? But to give you a basic idea, he talks about trichromatic, three colors. So he talks about the three main colors which are there: RGB, red, green, blue. We believe that red has the largest wavelength, green has the medium wavelength and blue has the smallest wavelength. We will read about everything in detail when we move to the unit of perception. But this was the theory given by Hermann along with Young. Clear? Now if anybody else has any doubts, please let me know, then I will start with today's class. Clear everyone? Clear? Yes, Samiran, not exactly psychophysics. This trichromatic theories does not really come under psychophysics. Somewhat, yes, we can say that perception is linked with psychophysics. Yeah. Thank you so much, Arshia. Alright, so I have brought two questions for you all. Please read the first question carefully and type in your answer when I ask you to type in. Okay, please read the question. You have 10 seconds, everybody. Alright everyone, please type in your answers. Very good everyone. Alright, amazing everyone, amazing. Komal, Aryan, Samiksha, Saloni. For the sake of my, you have amazing names, I don't know, very creative you all are. Chalo. Anyways, so when we talk about empiricist believes in experiences, right? The experience that we can gain through our senses. So C is the correct answer. Very well done. The second question, very easy question. Please read the question carefully and try to answer. All of you, please type in your answer. Till then, I'll just text in the Telegram group that we are starting. Amazing everyone. When we talk about mental processes or our cognition, it refers to the internal covert processes that we cannot observe directly. Okay? So A is the correct answer. Very well done. All of you answered correctly. So in today's class, we are beginning with schools of psychology. Right, we have read about the basic history. We have read about how we moved from the Greek era towards towards the theories or the foundation of lab by Wilhelm Wundt. Right, now we are beginning with schools of thought. We also read about these name of the schools, the years which they are associated with, right, in our first class as well. And we also discussed why do we keep some people in a specific school. Okay, wait, I'll just fix the dimension of the PPT. Now it must be. Alright, thank you Sakshi for letting me know. So, when we talk about the schools of thought which are there in psychology, we actually collectively, we bind some group of individual who have some sort of common assumption, common issues that they want to work upon, and they use certain common methods. For example, when we talk about the school of structuralism, their main focus is structure of mind, to understand the consciousness, to break down the element of consciousness. That is why we are going to club the people who think this way in this particular school. Those people who wanted to know the adaptive function of mind, we clubbed them all under functionalism school. We have William James, we have Harvey Carr, we have John Angel. We will read about all of them in today's class. We have psychoanalysis school, we have Freud, then neo-Freudians there, we have Gestalt psychology, behaviorism, humanistic, cognitive psychology. I hope all of you now remember the years which they are associated with, the sequence in which these schools were accepted by the APA. So the years which are written here, these are the years in which APA accepted these schools as separate schools of thought, as something which has contributed a lot to the field of psychology. And we also read about the forces of psychology in our first class. Will anybody tell me what are the 5 forces? What is the first force? Everyone? What is the first force? Quickly. Okay. Very good. Those who have attended the first class, they know what is the first force. First force is psychoanalysis. What do we refer as forces? Forces are those disciplines, forces are those school of thoughts which brought a change. Initially, when we talk about structuralism and functionalism school, people were very set on reading about the structure and function of mind. Then came the first force in psychology, which was psychoanalysis, which brought a huge change, which acted like a force to deviate what people were studying at that time. Right? Very well done. The second force is behaviorism. What was the third force? Yes, everyone, what was the third force? Humanistic school, existential schools, right? So, humanistic school and existential school. Sometimes you might not be given these options, so we go with cognitive school as well, if these are not the first option, but humanistic is the first choice that we do. Okay? Transpersonal school also. Transpersonal school was also founded by Abraham Maslow. We will read about it in detail as we move forward. Then what was the fourth force? What was the fourth force? Very good. Multiculturalism and positive psychology. And at last, the fifth force of psychology is social justice and human advocacy. Right? It is very important for you to remember the sequence. In exam, you are directly asked question like which is the first force, which is the second force, which is the third force. Okay? So please remember the sequence, remember the schools, remember the name of the founders also. We have discussed about them in much more detail in our first class. Right? Those who have not watched the first class, please watch and revise. Okay? And please remember the sequence of forces as well. So, in yesterday's class, we read about Wilhelm Wundt. We know that Wilhelm Wundt is known as father of modern experimental psychology. Right? And he also founded the first experimental lab in Leipzig, Germany. What was the year in which the lab was founded? Anybody? What was the year? Very well done. 1879. Amazing. And Wilhelm Wundt actually said that the main aim of the experimental psychology is to study or describe our consciousness. And he said that we are going to reduce, we are going to break down the elements of our consciousness. That is why we say that the approach of Wilhelm Wundt is atomistic or reductionist. Okay, I told this in yesterday's class. What is the atom of consciousness? What is the smallest part of consciousness? Anybody? Quickly. What is the smallest part of our consciousness? Thought. Amazing, everyone. Right? And he broke down our consciousness into the three parts, right? Representation, which has to do with perception. Will, we wanting to pay attention, right? Voluntary action, voluntary behavior, and at last, feeling, right? And what was the method which was used by Wilhelm Wundt to study our consciousness or the elements of consciousness? Yes, Ashok sir, there is a difference between psychoanalysis and psychodynamic. Psychoanalysis only talk about Freud, whereas psychodynamic talks about Freud as well as all the new Freudians. Okay, very well done, everyone. Introspection was the method which was used by Freud. He said that we can also take into account methods like reaction time. He said that we can observe the basic mental processes quantitatively. But when we have to move towards complex mental processes like language, culture, then what are the type type of methodology that we should adopt? Anybody? What is the type of methodology that we should adopt to study about our complex mental processes like language, culture? Qualitatively amazing, everyone. Amazing. Okay? Then he has also written around 10 volumes of Volcker psychology, which basically means folk psychology or culture psychology. So Volcker psychology is a German term. Okay? I hope everybody understands what Wilhelm Wundt stands for, as he wanted to study about the voluntary action, voluntary behaviors which are there. That is why his field of study is known as voluntarism. So if you are asked, he is the founder of which school? He is the founder of the school of voluntarism. It is not accepted as a school of thought in psychology, but it is a separate school of thought. Clear? Everybody understands about Wilhelm Wundt? I hope everybody is through and through with Wilhelm Wundt. Now we will build upon Wilhelm Wundt and we will read about E.B. Ticknor. Right. So now what happened? E.B. Ticknor, Edward Bradford Ticknor, basically went to study from Wilhelm Wundt in his lab. Right. So Wilhelm Wundt told him that I am trying to break the elements of consciousness. I am trying to, study. I am trying to do all of these aspects. I want to study the structure of our consciousness, elements of our consciousness. Right. So what happened? Edward Bradford actually brought these thoughts to America. Okay, as I said, Wilhelm Wundt was working in Germany. Okay, so Edward Bradford, Ticknor was the one, E.B. Ticknor was the one who brought these ideas to America, and he built this first systematic approach to psychology. Also, there is one more thing that you will observe later, that as those people who have worked majorly in the regions which are in America, they have been accredited as founders of those schools. So even when you talk about structuralism, E.B. Ticknor is the founder. Even when you talk about functionalism school, William James is the founder, even though William James himself said that Harvey Carr and James Rowland have put in a lot of effort. John Dewey have put in a lot of effort. But still, IPA accepted Americans, majorly Americans, as father of those schools. So, what did Edward Bradford Ticknor do? He said that I agree with my teacher Wundt, and I am also going to study the immediate experiences, which is our consciousness, right? But his ideas were a little different than that of Wundt. Let me contrast both of their ideas. So, Wundt and Ticknor. So, when I talk about Wundt, if you remember, Wundt said that perception matters a lot, right? So, perception was given more important. Even when we talk about the elements of consciousness given by Wundt, he says that representation, which is the element of perception, how we perceive something, what do we perceive by that, will and feeling are important. But when we talk about Ticknor said that I am going to further break down these elements as well. These elements are not atomistic or they are not atomistically correct. So he said that I am not going to study perception, I am going to study sensation. Okay? Sensation later on forms the perception. Right? I hope all of you know this, that first of all, we receive some information by our sensory organ. For example, we see something, we hear something, we touch something, etc. Then we pay attention to that. And later on we perceive that, right? So he said that I am not going to go to the level of perception. I am going to talk about the consciousness at a sensory level itself. Does it make sense how the approach of Tickner and Wundt were different? If you have any query anywhere in what we have discussed right now, please let me know. Clear with everyone? Yes, no, something? Yes, okay. Then he said images. Okay, images, he talks about ideas. So he said whenever we are experiencing something, I would want to take into account the ideas which come along with that. Okay? Then at last, effect. So if you remember, I said that earlier in one of the philosophers class, I told you that emotion is what we feel at this second, and if we add up what we have been feeling, what emotion we are experiencing, it becomes a feeling. The compounding of emotion is feeling. We discussed that. So he said that I am not going to talk about feeling, I am going to talk about affect, which is one of the element of feel. Clear? So Tickner wanted to kind of break down the elements which have been given by Wundt even to a further extent. Clear? I hope you are clear and you are through with how the elements given by Wundt of consciousness and the elements of consciousness given by Tickner are different than that of each other. They are similar, but they are a little different as well. Yes, we can say that when we feel a certain emotion, for example, if I am, when I saw a tiger, okay, so my heart started to race and I said I am feeling afraid. Now, if that, if that heartbeat, if that interpretation, expanded over some minutes, then it becomes a feeling. Okay, so emotion is the smallest unit. If we add up it, if we feel a certain emotion for some period of time, then it becomes a feeling. Okay, if we feel something for a long moment of time, then it becomes mood. Okay, we will read about all this in much more detail. Is it okay? Okay, Sakshi is writing. Is it okay to say that they are not different, but either Tickner's as breakdown of Wundt's element? Yes. Yes, you can remember it like that. That Tickner wanted to break down the elements even further than that of Wundt's approach. Okay? Chalo, moving ahead. Now, if you remember, both of them, Wundt and Tickner, both used the method of introspection to study these methods. Okay? So now when we talk about Tickner's introspection, it is more rigid. It is more strict in nature. How? I will add another slide. So when I draw this, image, okay? Do not judge my drawing. Just tell me what is this? ठीक है, what is this? Everybody, what is this? नर्सरी क्लास में आ गए हैं हम, जल्दी से बताइए, what is this? Apple, right? Now, when we talk about Wundt's, theory, Wundt's understanding of introspection, he said that we can use our prior information or we can directly tell our perception. Okay, which is apple. Okay, but when we talk about Tickner's method, Tickner said that you only have to report the sensation. How? So if you are looking at that, you will not tell me the information that you have priorly. You will not tell me it is an apple. It is what? It is the perception that you are getting. You have to tell me the sensation. You have to tell me that, okay, this is, this is round. There is a green type of element to it. There is, like, it is red in color. It is shiny, etc. So he wanted to break it down onto a sensation level. Okay? And when you talk about this, so for example, if you are in Tickner's lab, okay, and all of you have answered that this is an apple, so Tickner will say that it is a stimulus error. Okay? If you are analyzing what this is and telling me that it is an apple, then it is a stimulus error. You are being biased by the previous information that you have. You are not studying your consciousness clearly. Okay? So for him, stimulus error is what? It is the reporting of representation directly. Clear with everyone how the methodology used by Tickner and Wundt are different than that of each other. If you have any doubts anywhere in what we have discussed right now, please let me know. Clear? Everybody is through with it? Now, all of you will tell me who is father of structuralism? Who is the founder of the school of structuralism? Stimulus error. Yes, Sakshi, I will repeat that. Stimulus error is basically, Tickner is saying that you have to report sensation. You have to report the immediate experience. If I am looking at something and I'm saying, if I'm saying, okay, it is red in color, it is shaped a certain way, its texture is a certain way, I am reporting the immediate experience. For example, if this is a pen, I am saying that, okay, this is black in color, its texture is a little smooth, okay, I can hold it with this, etc. I am reporting my immediate experience. But if I start to report my, reflection of that, if I say, okay, this is a pen now, okay, so that will be stimulus error. That is basically stimulus error for Tickner is what? That we are reporting the representation. We are not focusing upon the immediate experience. Okay, कि immediately when I look at this, later on our brain processes कि okay, this is smooth, this helps us in writing, etc. Oh, it is a pen. That is a later response. That is a later report. That is the representation. He wanted that we should only stick to sensation. We should only stick to the immediate experiences that we are having. Yes, it is one kind of bias, Samir. Very good. No, Tickner asked to report all of this. Okay, when we talk about the elements, Tickner and Wundt asked to report all of them, but we are just discussing about how their method of introspection was different. So basically the method of introspection for Tickner was much stricter, and he basically trained the subjects who were there in their lab so that we can avoid bias. Okay, clear with everyone? If you have any query anywhere in what we have discussed so far, please let me know. In exam, we are going to write Tickner. Very good, Aryan. Yes. Or when we talk about Wundt, we can use our perception, we can use our further reporting. ठीक है, हम immediate को ना छोड़ के मैं ये बोल दूँ कि अच्छा this is an apple, वो उनके लिए error नहीं है. That is not a bias for them. ठीक है, they would want that you report what you are perceiving right now. Okay, there is a tree, there is a pen, etc, etc. Okay, wait, let me see your doubt. Ma'am, then Tickner's ideas did not align with Wundt, or were they in some way? देखो, their ideas align on one thing. What? That we want to break down our consciousness. We want to study the structure of our consciousness. I want to reduce, I want to, go to a level wherein I can get to understand the atom of the consciousness. So there they align. But the way they elementalized consciousness, the way they studied consciousness, that was different. Okay? So their idea align on regard to the basic principle. For example, if I say that I also want to study psychology, Aryan also wants to study psychology, Sakshi also wants to study psychology. But the way we are studying psychology, that is different. So their idea align ki their main aim is to study psychology. Clear? Clear everyone? Are we good to move to the school of functionalism? Okay, before Arshia is saying this is not fair to Wundt. Originally, structure of mind was studied by Wundt. Yes, but Wundt never tried to formalize it. Wundt called his school as voluntarism, as the study of voluntary actions and behavior. But the whole construct of structuralism was, what do we say? It was famous, or it was, took forward, the baton was forwarded to Tickner only. तो Tickner ने उस चीज को famous किया है. Tickner has brought people around. So, and he was also an American, so yeah. ठीक है? Also, before we move ahead, who is founder of voluntarism? Quickly. This is what we have discussed right now. Who is founder of voluntarism? Anybody? Won't. Very good. Very good. अगर ये किसी ने भी गलत किया एग्जाम में, अब वो पिटेगा मुझसे एकदम, क्योंकि फादर ऑफ स्ट्रक्चरलिज्म इज हु? E.B. टिकनर. एंड फाउंडर ऑफ वॉलंटरिज्म इज वुंdt. Wundt's idea influenced Tickner, but he was not the founder. Clear? Chalo. We are good to move to the next school, which is the school of functionalism. Now, as we said, the structuralists were more inclined towards studying the structure of these mental processes, the immediate behaviors, etc. There were a lot of people like William James, like John Dewey. They were like, that is not, why are you focusing upon the structure? Okay, what help does it do? We should study about the mechanism. We should study about how we function. We should study about why we function a certain way. Right? Our more focus should be given to mechanism rather than structure. Structure is how it is as it is. Why do you want to know the structure? Know how we work. Right? So, the school of functionalism came into being. Actually, there were people, what happened was, people started to criticize, Tickner's methodology. People started to criticize that, wait, let me add another slide and I'll write there itself. So, people started to criticize the school of structuralism. Okay? First, they said that introspection is an invalid method. They said it is very biased, people will give their subjective experiences, it is not objective in nature. How you can validate that? How you can say that this method is accurately predicting our consciousness? Then people started to question why to break down consciousness. Okay? So these people, like William James, they said that our consciousness is like a stream. Okay? We have a stream of consciousness. Our experiences are made up of this stream of consciousness. So he gave this 12-word sentence problem. Okay? William James. So he said that, for example, if there are these 12 people in the room and I tell each one of them ki one word ki I can only think, what help does it do? Okay? If a person is aware about only one sentence, only one part of the sentence, how will they be aware about the full sentence? They should know the full sentence, right? And he said that there is a unitary experience which is there. We cannot just say ki we are kind of trying to focus on one word. Till the time you focus on one word, the whole sentence will be finished. For example, if I am saying something and you start to break down ki okay, what did ma'am say? You're not doing that, right? What you are doing, that you are trying to summarize everything together. It is like a stream. Everything is falling together, everything is adding up together. So he said that this is a useless method. We should not focus upon reading the structure. It is going to lead us nowhere. Okay? So when we talk about when we talk about William James, wait, let me plug in my charger. Just give me a moment. So we were discussing about William James, and William James basically said that when we are studying how we function, when we are studying about our functionality, the mechanism of our consciousness, we look at our consciousness as a stream or as a unitary experience. And he was very much influenced by Charles Darwin. Who is Charles Darwin? Anybody? Who is Charles Darwin? Have you heard about Charles Darwin before? Anybody? Who is Charles Darwin? Theory of evolution दी थी, yes. Survival of the fittest, right? He was an evolutionist. Theory of evolution. He said that, for example, okay, how evolution takes place. For example, earlier what used to happen, that there were a species of beetles who were red in color. Okay, so the beetles are red in color and the grass is green. Okay, for example, and the beetles are there in the grass. So if there will be any bird, any animal who would want to consume them, they can directly see the beetle and they will eat them up, right? So with time, what started to happen, the color of the beetle got evolved to green color itself, so that they can camouflage better. If you remember, we say that what do we say? Ki the giraffes used to earlier have very short necks, but because the leaves used to be planted very high in the area giraffes were found earlier, they started to grow their necks. The neck started to grow bigger, right? That is how they got the neck that they have right now. So people evolve. Even when we talk about our brain, even when we talk about our mental processes, William James believed that we evolve. We evolve to adapt to our environment. Okay? For example, you must have heard about this effect named as Flynn effect. Have you? Anybody has heard about Flynn effect? So what does Flynn effect say? Flynn effect says that after every 2 decades, the intelligence of people get increased by around 15 to 20 points. If you see that, if we see our siblings, if we see our nieces and nephews, we see that they are more intelligent. The kind of activities that they are doing at such young age, they are kind of doing it earlier. So intelligence keeps on rising. It means our mental processes are kind of getting evolved. We are getting adapted to the environment that we live in. We are kind of trying to be the fittest for our environment, right? The way we can fit the best. So William James said that we should study the purpose of our mental processes and how they help us in adapting to our environment. Okay? And he also wrote a book named The Principles of Psychology. So a lot of students get confused. Principles of Psychology is written by William James, and Wundt has also written a book named Principles of Physiological Psychology. So now I've written it here so that whenever you revise you can contrast both of them. So name of the books are also asked sometime, ki who wrote this book, if there are very famous books which are there. Okay? We have already discussed about the stream of consciousness. No matter, for example, if I am telling you a sentence, for example, look at this image. Okay? So this was the image of pure color. So if I will zoom it for you all, wait, just give me a second. Okay, so you will be able to see that there are dots of pure colors which are, used here. Here you can see, so there are these dots. But do you just, perceive the single dot? Do we? No. We perceive the whole experience. Dots of pure color, we are not perceiving single dots. We are perceiving the whole experience, right? It is a unitary flow of our consciousness. So he said that our consciousness is like a stream. William James also, gave this theory of emotion later. You must have heard about James Lange theory of emotion. Have you all padha hai in your bachelor's? No? Okay, so James Lange theory of emotion, when we study about emotion, we will read about it in much more detail. So basically this theory says that we, feel the arousal, before emotion. Okay, so for example, my heart will start thumping if I see a dog, and so my heart will firstly start to thump and then I will feel fear. Okay, so arousal before emotion. Clear? So this was the viewpoint of William James, who is regarded as father of, founder of the school of functionalism. Now, if you remember earlier, I said that there were more people who contributed to the school of functionalism. Even William James himself said that Dewey and Angel, John Dewey and James Angel deserve to be the founder of the school of functionalism. Even one more interesting fact that I would like to tell you all. So what happened earlier so there used to be kind of like a lot of rivalry between A.B. Tickner and all the functionalists. So Tickner actually wrote in one of the article that I do not ascribe to the idea of this functionalism. What is this functionalism? I believe in structuralism. So he was the one who gave the school of functionalism its name. Imagine. Okay? So, coming back, that was about it. Coming back to John Dewey. So John Dewey actually was working at University of Columbia. So he comes under Columbia School of Functionalism. Okay, so John Dewey, James Roland, Angel and Harvey Carr, all of these three people belong to the Columbia School of, Columbia School of Functionalism. So these people were very much interested in functionalism, and John Dewey specifically was interested in the concept of reflex arc. ठीक है. And he also wrote this article in Psychological Review named as the psychological arc concept in psychology. So what did John Dewey say? He said that traditionally, when I talk about reflex arc, what comes to your mind? What is reflex arc? Anybody? Anybody? Quickly, what is reflex arc? Please give it a try. Very easy. What is a reflex? You all must have heard this, that when we touch something hot, we bring our hand back. ठीक है. Reflex arc, immediate response that we give. Very good, Ashok sir. ठीक है. Okay, we face a stimulus and reflex activates, maybe. Yes. Right. So traditionally, how we used to look at reflex arc was, there is this fire, ठीक है, and if our hand is kind of in vicinity of that fire, if it kind of starts to feel the burnt, then we take our hand away. ठीक है. So in traditional way, reflex arc was seen only as the movement that we indulge into. ठीक है. The movement of taking our hand back, movement of immediately giving response to any stimuli which is kind of hampering or hindering our survival. But John Dewey said that our reflex arc is not just limited to that. Now we'll see what did John Dewey has to offer. John Dewey said that the reflex arc will comprise of two things. It will comprise of obviously the movement and the perception as well. How? Let me explain. So for example, if there is this child, ठीक है, and the child by mistake maybe touched the electricity switch, ठीक है, and they got an electric shock. Okay, now what will happen? Obviously there will be a movement. Firstly, what will happen? There will be a movement, and secondly there will be a change in perception also, that from next time the child will be a little afraid of the electric switch and they'll be like, oh, I will not come near that. Right? So he said that we need to take into consideration the psychological impact of the reflex arc as well. He said that now the arc, even though he also called it reflex arc, he said it is circular in nature. ठीक है, it is not just a arc, it is not just a movement, it is a full circle which brings about a change. A circle which includes movement and then later change in perception. Clear with everyone? What is how John Dewey added on to the concept of reflex arc later? If you have any query anywhere in what we just discussed, please let me know. Clear? Yes, no, something. Amazing. Moving ahead. So we have discussed that John Dewey has talked about reflex arc. He criticized von Tantigner also. Right? He said that why are you, trying to reduce or elementalize, or why are you trying to get to the molecular aspect of, the mental processes? He said that that will not work at all, right? And obviously he said that these, reflex form circles rather than arc, and he talked about that perception and movement are one unit, one circular movement which occurs. So can I say that the functionalist, let it be William James, let it be John Dewey, their belief was molaristic. or holistic. They want to look at consciousness as a whole. They want to look at consciousness as a full experience. They do not want to reduce or elementalize or molecularize any aspect of it. Clear? Clear, everyone? What does John Dewey says and why functionalists are, functionalists believe in molaristic or holistic approach. Clear? Are we good to go? Should we move towards the next functionalist? So the next functionalist who is also associated with actually wait, I did a mistake. Chicago School, not Columbia. Columbia अलग है. ठीक है? So John Dewey, James Roland Angel and Harvey Carr, all three of them belong to Chicago School of Functionalism, and then Robert S. Woodsworth belonged to Columbia School. I kind of mixed Columbia and Chicago, so sorry. Okay, clear? So basically they all worked at University of Chicago. That is why we say that this is the Chicago School of Functionalism. Okay, now what happened? Roland Angel actually also was interested to study the adaptiveness of consciousness. He said that yes, we should study the role of consciousness, but we should not try to break it down. And he even kind of criticized structuralist school. They said that structuralist school is at odd with what is psychology. Psychology does not stand for reducing our structure. It does not stand for breaking down our experience or elementalize it. It is at odd with what psychology is. And he said that functionalism is nothing new, but it is what psychology was every time, or psychology was always offering. Okay? He was also elected as the 15th president of APA. Okay? So he has also been a president of APA, and he also wrote a textbook titled Psychology. Okay? Then comes the third person who belongs to Chicago School of Functionalism. So by the time Harvey Carr came into existence, or Harvey Carr got to Chicago School, when we talk about John Dewey and Angel, they already kind of solidified the base for functionalism. But he later refined the functionalist perspective, and he said that there are two important things that we should keep in mind. Okay, so basically Harvey Carr is trying to do what? He is kind of trying to summarize everything and refine the school of functionalism now. So he said, first of all, the mental activities that we indulge in, the mental processes that we indulge in are obviously one of the important subject matter of psychology. And secondly, the function of such mental activities, we need to study that. We need to see how they are helping us, and we should further use them to guide our action, guide our behavior. So basically what he has done, what he has said, he has combined everything, which is the basically he has talked about the basic principle of functionalism. He has said that there are two important points. One point, that mental activities are the core subject matter of psychology. Secondly, when we talk about function of these mental activities, we should observe them and then use them to guide our behavior, to guide our action. That is about Harvey Carr. Harvey Carr basically he obviously referred to specific function as adaptive or adjustive. Okay? And he said that we should focus upon importance of mental processes, purpose of mental processes, rather than the content and element which are there. Okay? Even Harvey Carr worked with J.B. Watson also. By the time Harvey Carr was there, a lot of other schools like behaviorism, Gestalt school, psychoanalysis all came into being. If you are interested, they actually did this experiment on rat also. I think it is known as Kleplanic experiments. right? You can read about that, not important from CUET PG perspective, but he has also worked with JB Watson. Okay, now coming to the last topic for today. Now, Columbia School of Functionalism. So William James was there, John Dewey, Rowland and Harvey Card, three of them belonged to Chicago School, and at last Robert S. Wordsworth. So Woodworth basically was interested to study the motive or drive behind a particular action. For example, we indulge in certain mental processes, we indulge in decision making, etc. He said, what is happening inside the person which is motivating them to behave a particular way. Okay, so his school of thought was known as dynamic psychology, wherein the main focus was the motivation. Okay, he said that whatever physiological event which are happening inside the organism, they are kind of responsible, and we should examine why people behave the way they do, what are their motive, what are the drive behind their behavior. That's about the school of functionalism. So in functionalism, we have read about four people. We have read about William James, who is obviously the founder. 12-word problem. He has also given the James Lange theory of emotion. He is inspired by Darwin, Darwin's approach. Also, one more thing, when we talk about William James, he was somebody who also laid the foundation of evolutionary psychology. Then we read about John Dewey. John Dewey was one of the member of Chicago School of Functionalism, and he worked majorly in regard to reflex arc. Then comes James Angel. Okay, James Angel kind of tried to solidify the thinking of the functionalist school, and he also criticized structuralist approach. And then comes Harvey Carr, okay, who has also worked with behaviorists, and he later refined the school of functionalism as we know today. Okay, and he also mentioned two important aspects, one being the mental activities being the subject core, and another being their function and use and how they guide our action. At later stages came another functionalist, okay, the fifth functionalist, which is Robert Wordsworth, and he actually gave his own field of dynamic psychology, wherein he was interested to study the motivation behind a person's mental processes. From tomorrow's in tomorrow class, I think the whole class will go in psychoanalysis itself. So we will begin with the school of psychoanalysis tomorrow. If you have any query anywhere in whatsoever we have discussed so far, please let me know, then we will wrap our class. If you like the class, please give it a thumbs up, and if you have any query, please ask, then we will wrap our class. Clear? Alright everyone, thank you so much. I will actually reach out in the group. I think I will send a text today in the group itself. I need all of you to send me some sort of feedbacks. Maybe if you can maybe make a video, it would be amazing. I'm kind of trying to advertise or market these free classes that we are doing, because I really want it to reach out to more people. So I would want that. I will reach out to in the group. If you can give me written, that's good, but it would be amazing if you can give me, like, provide me with a video feedback of you, because that is more authentic in nature. So yeah. Okay, Sakshi is saying, ma'am, structuralism is feeling too much. Sakshi, structuralism is actually easy. ठीक है, एक दो बार रिवाइज करो, easy है आपको. If you are having any issues with structuralism, just ignore everything and look at this particular slide. Wait, this, it has everything that you need to know. Basic, you know that it talks about structure of mind, it talks about studying the consciousness, breaking down the consciousness to its smallest atom. That's it. This is the whole thing that you need to know. Nothing else beyond this. ठीक है. अच्छा, functionalism is too much. Yes, it is. I think you must have already been accustomed with structuralism to some extent, but when you talk about functionalism, there are new people that you must have studied about. So yeah, it might seem a little too much initially, but we will revise before tomorrow's class, before we begin with tomorrow's class. So I think it will kind of solidify as we move forward. ठीक है, चलो. Thank you so much everyone. It was an amazing class. I hope you understood about both the schools. The school of structuralism and functionalism both were accepted as separate schools, separate disciplines of psychology in the year 1896. I will write it down in the PPT as well. In both the school, we know, even though I have given a separate slide for years, but still 1896 is the year for both the schools, right? And that's about it. I hope we are through. Bye bye everyone, take care, have a good night, bye bye.